Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you might be. My name is
Happy
John.
time
Here
zone.
with Shannon. Happy time
And
zone. Good morning,
what
Shannon.
you what you didn't see was JP was dancing in the backstage. I've never seen JP dance.
Everybody says it's funny. You say that that music is, it's like this adult contemporary, and of course we laugh because it is. It's
Kind of
definitely
adult
adult
contemporary.
contemporary. Anybody who grew up in the Carolinas in the 80s or 90s will remember a channel called 102.9, and it was all like light adult contemporary hits. And I feel like this song would fit perfectly into that. But you know what's funny? We had so many people comment, say, where can we get this track? Like, it was a
Oh,
banger.
for
Now,
real?
it might not be anymore. Like, maybe it's probably worn out its welcome. But it was a popular ask of like, where can we get this? And in fact, to the point where when we would take a break and the music would play, if we didn't let it play all the way through one time, we'd get angry. We'd get some angry folks in the chat. So I mean,
Oh, that's funny.
but we
That is
but we can't
funny.
share it because Microsoft bought it, and I don't even know who to ask. Like, hey, I'd like to give this MP3 that you paid for out to some folks on the internet. Like, I don't even know who I would ask.
Yeah, it's
So
probably a rabbit hole, right? You'll start in
yeah,
on the process and it won't be a great reality.
yeah. So whatever. Such is life. So how are you this
Yeah.
morning, Shannon?
I am well. Look, Bolt. I knew Bolt. See, he joined. His ears turned red. JP is
They did.
on.
See.
Yeah. Well, yours turned red for sure. And then Bolt's turned red
Sure.
too because he didn't really, his spidey sense kicked in. JP might be streaming live.
Well, it's I guess it has been a while, but yes, I'm here. Although, what is that face? Oh, that's a tongue. We know. There's. I guess we'll wait, but yeah, it's nice to come back and do this one for a little bit. Of course, I got asked to do this because of B2C. I mean, what else, right? Custom policy. I
I
clearly
mean,
have zero talent in anything else.
if you were terrible at this, I'd never ask you on the show. You're really good at this. You know XML better than I do. You're a much
This
better
isn't this
developer than
isn't a
I am.
still.
I just play one on TV. I'm not really a good deep developer. I get a little confused at times and yeah.
Well, but
So
what you just said was basically like saying you are the best butter churner in my circle of friends, right?
I could do the 101
And
tutorials, JP. Give
I
me some
could
credit.
no, I mean, it's like B2C and custom policies. It's like we're still building stuff like on the side with it, and of course we have plenty of people who are using it. And one of the things we worked on before, like last year, was around this thing we called it B2C app roles. It's gotten some new life. We've sort of lit a fire back under this B2C, B2X, app roles, organizational management thing. So I started working on some of that code again recently, and you realize like you're spending all this time, you're tinkering on all these XML policies and all this sort of stuff, and you realize like you are in a garage, probably somewhere like in the UK, like somewhere in England in the forest, you're in a shed building the most amazing steam engine the world has ever seen. And that's what we're going to do is come out and say, look at this amazing steam engine. Everybody's going to say, yeah, we've moved on to electric cars now. We've moved past even gasoline engines, and we've moved on to electric vehicles. So way to build a relic of the past. So maybe
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, it's fine. It is what it is. And I'm happy to be here to talk about it some more.
Nice.
So
So Bolt says he actually likes custom policies now. It must be Stockholm syndrome. Hardy
see,
har har.
that's what happens. That's what happens.
So
They
why are
sneak
we
up
here
on me.
today? Yeah, why? Well, I mean, we're here to just chit chat, right? And shoot the proverbial, you know what? We can't say it because it's a curse word. But we're also here because there's a hackathon our division is running. So if you haven't
That's
heard
right.
about it, it's the Identity Hackathon, Identity for All. That's the short URL. Go there, take a look at it, sign up. The scope is pretty broad. You don't have to do custom policies with B2C. We just did because we like to give JP a headache. Right? I think that's right? Isn't that why we like to give you headaches?
Well, I mean the hackathon is basically Do whatever you would like, as long as it has something to do with the Microsoft Identity Stack somewhere.
Right, and it's pretty broad, but we just chose to focus on B2C because we like to give JP a mild headache, right? So that's why that's
So you know what we need to do is we need like it's like, you know how Batman, they had the bat that they'd project into the sky, you know? We need just like
Mhm.
an XML tag that gets projected into the sky like a giant searchlight. It's just like a closing
Like
XML
the
tag.
B2C logo, the B2C, oh, the closing XML tag, even better.
Yeah. Be like
Oh.
like maybe this is what they do in District 13. Like this is why Pan Am was like, get District 13 out of here, because they sit around and they talk to everybody in XML. And so anyway,
Yeah.
Hunger Games. Anyway, so yeah,
So
so
why don't
our
we
division's doing a big hackathon,
yeah,
and
we're
we
trying
thought
to
it'd be
get
a
the
good
word
idea
out,
to, yeah, be
submit
team players
something.
and give a submission in. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the premise is hip or skip. So let's before we kind of delve into the solution, let's showcase some of the little bits here that we're doing. Oh, and you know what dawned on me too is we should probably also add this in. So hang on a second. Some live stuff on the fly.
Okay, what are we adding?
So I am adding our repo. So I'm going to show this now.
Okay.
And so
Cool.
our faithful pal Christos built this. It's a very bare bones app, right? It's nothing fancy. We ultimately we don't expect to win, right? So we just want to be helpful here getting the word out, and we thought this would be a really funny bit. The idea is this hip or should we skip it, right? So hot takes. And you can take a look at the repo. There's a couple of things we did. So I went ahead and I wired this up with Workload Identity Federation. So, if you're not familiar, it is a great way to federate a credential. And actually, let's see, let me go into what I did with the credential first. So, you create an app registration. So, this is the hip or skip, right? And then all the goodies that you expect, right? So, there's one secret, but it's not a regular secret. So when you head down here to certificates and secrets, and are we looking at, yeah, it's about the right. Okay, I just want to make sure it was big enough. You see there's a client secret, sure, but that's not what I'm using. I'm actually using a federated credential. So what is a federated credential? Well, it allows you to pass your tokens without needing that secret. And that's key because this helps you related to compromise. You don't have to worry about something getting compromised because there's a password being stored somewhere, or you don't have to worry about a password expiring and you replacing the password in your app falling flat on its face. So, this is now available, and it's one of those things where, I won't actually go through it since it's already wired up, but I'll kind of walk through the basic flow. There's a couple of different scenarios. So, GitHub Actions, Kubernetes accessing Azure resources. So if JP wanted to roll his own Kubernetes cluster, which he doesn't, but if he did, he could stand up an IDP and have it pass OAuth tokens and access resources without needing a service principal secret, right? You could also think about other issuers as well. So you can configure an identity managed by an external OpenID Connect provider. So compute platforms and other clouds, compute platforms on premises. But for purposes of this, I just created GitHub Actions, right? So you supply the organization name, which I think it was 425 show, and then the repository is just hip or skip. And then you come down here and there's a couple of ways you can do this. So these federated credentials, you need one per action. And so I have built it for a pull request and for a branch. So anything happening to main, anything happening to like a PR itself, this federated credential will be able to do what it needs to do and deploy a resource into Azure, right? So that's basically it. So let's just kind of walk through the little bits here. You need a name for it. A description's always good, but you don't need one. And I just leave the audience, right? You can always edit it if you wanted to be real crazy, but it's there, it's grayed out on purpose. But if you got real savvy, like if you're a JP and wanted to play around with this a little bit more and maybe give yourself a headache willingly, you might want to edit that and play around with it. But I'd say don't, because it does actually work. And then once this is, created, it shows up down here. So I've got, 2 different actions. So anything happening to the main branch and any PR, right? So this is all just populated for you by default. And this is sort of the way in which this is all wired up so you can deploy something into GitHub. So then you come down to your actual repo, you go down to your secrets, and you look at your actions, right? So look at this. I'm only plugging in the client ID, the subscription ID, and the tenant ID. Pretty nifty, right? You don't need to focus on a secret, because usually you'd have to shove a secret in here as a secret for the repo. And then it would be one of those things when you rotate your secrets, you'd inevitably forget about the fact that you had to update your secrets and your app would fall flat on its face. Now it doesn't have to, right? So that's kind of a cool little bit. And then I won't kick it off because the app is actually up and functional, but I can showcase some past actions, right? So I updated the index file, and you can go into here and it looks very similar to, every CI/CD type of pipeline. It walks through the bits here. So it's checking out the code. It's running everything inside of the YAML file, and I can show that as well. But you see that it's getting a federated token, right? So pretty neat. And then the successful login. So you can tell it didn't always work. So if you go back to, it's the summary where you'll see, let's go back to the actions itself. You'll see that it failed a number of times before I got it up and functional, right? So that's the beauty of tinkering and building on the fly. And then if you go to the code itself, inside the workflows section, this is what it's pulling, right? So everything, so it's got the permissions to write and to read. I've set up the web app, and this worked. I wasn't sure the exact .NET version, and we were ripping and running trying to get this stage, so it worked. I think you can also specify the direct version too, and I don't think that's going to fall on its face either. But yeah, so the idea here, you just plug in the client ID, the tenant ID, the subscription ID, and that's pretty much it, right? So it's
Nice.
a very
No secrets.
straightforward, no secrets, a very straightforward way to set it up. You might run into problems like I did, but just go back to the documentation. That was where I copied and pasted the wrong thing. So thank you, Larry Tesler, for copy and paste, because we'd be so screwed without it. We'd fat finger everything, right? But I copied and pasted the wrong thing, copied and pasted the right thing, and then was able to make sure that it ran correctly. So I think
Nice.
that's
So the
basically it.
the whole point of federated identity or federated credentials is that there are no credentials, because essentially we're telling Azure AD, hey, you should trust an assertion from this issuer, right? You should trust a token from this issuer with this subject as representing this specific app registration of my tenant, right?
Yeah.
And so GitHub runs their own OpenID issuer, right? Their own OpenID token signer, their token service, whatever. And they will write a token and sign it with their own, and sign it with our subject, right? The subject is the essentially the unique identifier in the token. They'll sign that token, and then when we send that over, Azure AD can verify that token essentially, that it came from GitHub, and that the subject represents this specific thing, and so it can consider that trusted. And what's neat is we can do that with stuff like AWS and GCP and all these other things, right, that we want to use Azure AD for. We can do that without having to ship a secret in code, right? Without having to rotate them. Lord knows how many people have written their own secret rotator. Like, there are 11 million of them out there in GitHub. If you go search for Azure AD secret rotator, we'll be here for the rest of the day. So I totally get it. And it's awesome. Like, it's really cool how easy it is to get it going. So
yeah, I was actually a little shocked at how easy it was, and I think I overthought it, and I put too much info in, and then I kind of forgot about YAML and the spacing, and yeah, so it was a good learning experience. I keep saying I need to put it into a blog, so hopefully this gets into a future blog post that we can kind of showcase to the masses at large.
So catch up on a couple things in the thing. Bolt says that it's GA. It asks if it's GA. It is not yet GA, sadly. It will be soon, I think. but
It's
it is
very,
not
very,
yet.
it's very close. Yeah, I was gonna say it's very, very close.
Yeah.
And I know we're gonna be doing some work on this. So I'll be off all of July and most of August, finishing up my maternity leave. And JP will be the point person for the next Swarm and early sneak peek. This is going to be the focus point, workload identities. And so workload identity federation will be a little component of it, as well as all of the bits with conditional access, identity protection, etc. So
A couple of the things are mentioned here. So Bolt asks if an employee leaves, they put their picture on the milk carton wallpaper behind us. And it's funny that you say that because if you see, yes, they're weird milk carton things all over
that's
the wall.
weird.
And what's even weirder is that the shaded part is different on each one of them. So we were actually discussing, a few of us were in here earlier discussing, is this where they determined which part of the milk carton do we get the best coverage of? Or more cynically, which part of the milk carton do we pay? Do people pay for when they need to put the missing person or whatever? So
I'm
I don't
glad
know.
that's
It's
not
weird.
I'm glad it's not my job to go figure out what looks good in an office, because some of the office decor, as you know, we both used to be customer facing. There'd be times you'd show up to a customer and you're like, this is awful looking art. And it would be like out in the middle, and you kind of had to shimmy past it and hope you didn't wreck it, because it probably cost, a good chunk of change, 25 grand, 30 grand, whatever.
Well, the Charlotte office is newly renovated. I'm up here on 4th. Trooper mentions that like the effort that Microsoft put in their side offices here in London, which is cool. And the thing is, I'm on the 4th floor here in Charlotte. This floor just got renovated like during the pandemic because the rest of our building looks like a J.C. Penney from the mid 90s, right? But the new 4th floor is, in fact, let's go take a look. I mean, got nothing else to go on, right? It's either this or we can look at some XML stuff.
Well, I think you're just going to show that you worked on it, right? Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah.
But look at that. That's nice.
Nice new thing.
Does it still smell like a new office? That new office
sort of
smell?
Yeah, like Mountain Dew and Cheetos. Is that what you're after? What you're asking?
No, like, does it smell like new carpet?
No, most of the formaldehyde from the new carpet's gone away. So anyway, I'm over here. Here's my buddy Mike. Say hey, Mike. He's on a meeting, so don't bother him too much. There's Mike. Say hey, Mike. Mike's one of our apps sellers. Sells people on AKS and app services and all sorts of fun stuff. And he and I are hanging out today, so I can try to convince him to talk to his customers about identity more, so that we can build more apps. So.
That's exciting.
So yeah, but I think it's kind of nice. We got all these new cubes. And they got these big, huge, like super wide monitors, which are nice. So, of course, after using one of those here every day, I'm like, I think I need to go home and buy a few of these for the house. But then I was like, well, if they're curved, right, there should be some terminal number of them that you can buy to make an entire circle around you of monitors.
Oh my God! Is that what you're going to put on your standing desk? Are you going to put it in your standing desk?
Yeah, you have to go like underneath. Yeah, underneath it. Like your standing desk becomes a giant circle. It'd be like Neil Peart's drum circle, right?
Oh my God!
Like you just get lowered down into it. I think it'd be a blast.
I love it.
So anyway, okay. So work. So we have to do some work today. So let's see. So one of the things here is, so it's interesting, Bold, about the radius. I was reading about this. So the ones that we have here are the Samsung CRG9s. The Samsung CRG9 is 1800R. The larger the number, the flatter the screen, I guess. So the 1800R, it's like, I guess that's like the distance from your eyeballs. But the Samsung G9, which is still 49 inches, has is 1000R.
So it's curved
like
more.
You mentioned here. So it's got more of a curve. And so I'm wondering, like, how many of those would you need to go all the way around like a halo? And I don't know, I think it'd be kind of fun. Like, I mean, those are the future of computing.
Do you want to put XML on each one of those? Is that what you're trying to say? Because I mean,
well, speaking of XML, now that you mention it, I mean,
should we show your screen? want to show what you did? The little bits you did? Because again, we just stood up a bare bones app. It wasn't anything major, right? So I
Yeah,
mean, maybe
sure. So go ahead and share my screen. Tell me when
there
it's
you
up
go.
because I only have one screen.
It's
So I'm
up.
on my
Oh,
laptop.
it's
So
up. Sorry, it's
okay,
up. It's up.
all right, all right. So we've got, as you would expect, some B2C custom policies here. Now, I tried to keep these policies super simple and take whatever was already out there in the world and just tack on a new one, right? So these are the ones. These are the base policies. This is our extensions. These all come out of the base policy set. There's a really cool tool. I think it's called IEF Setup tool that you can run now on B2C directories, and it pretty much does all
Okay.
this work for you to get it all set up, which is
You've
really
got to
really
like
helpful
that.
for. Hmm?
You've got to like
Oh
that
yeah,
then.
I think it's fantastic. In fact, let me get a new window and I'll show you what it looks like because I think it's really cool. I think it's called IEF Setup Tool. Let me see. There we go. It's called B2C IEF Setup App. A little verbose for my take, but for my taste, but that's okay. So this app, when you come to this application, we'll put a link in the thing down here. When you come to this app, because whenever you have to use a custom policy, you kind of have to go through a lot of ceremony. You got to upload certain files in a certain order, and they have to have very specific tokens inside of the files. Change it, like you have to change the name of your directory, and you have to put specific GUIDs in there, and those specific GUIDs are app registrations that you don't register until the time that the app is created, which means the app registration ID. You don't know it up front. It's a lot of ceremony, right? It's sort of a clown shoe kind of a thing. So what this tool does is it essentially removes your clown shoes, makes your shoes normal size. So once you've created your tenant, you put the name of your tenant in here, and then you have some options like if you want to use phone sign in, like passwordless stuff. If you want to take out the Facebook references, like if you have no intention of using Facebook sign in, you can take those out. And when you click this button, you sign in, bam, away you go. All your stuff goes off and gets created, which is super cool.
Wow.
So using that app, you end up in a place where here's a tenant that I created. And I mean, it took 10 minutes to create the tenant and run the tool. And here are the policies that these are the starter pack policies essentially that are deployed by that tool. They even give you a test app. I mean, come on, IEF test app. How cool is that, right? Like you don't have to do anything. You just show up and it's already there.
Wow.
So the only thing I did was come back into our IEF here, right? Our IEF list. And I just went and downloaded our extensions policy. Now, ideally, you'd probably want to put this into a separate file, and that way you can sort of upload it and manage it independently, but whatever. Yeah, who's got time for that? So in our extensions file, which is this one, in our extensions file, we've got a new claims provider for Discord. It uses OAuth 2 because Discord doesn't have like an OpenID endpoint. They only use
Oh,
OAuth 2,
interesting.
which is fine. Whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty common too. Like LinkedIn only has one, for example, I think. So luckily they include lots of info in the tokens you can get. Like you can get identify and get email, so you get like a subject claim this way or a unique identifier. Excuse me. And so so this is kind of the majority of what we need. We're going to go to the authorization endpoint. Here's our token endpoint. Both of those should be pretty common if you're familiar with OAuth 2 or OpenID. And then our claims endpoint, because this uses user info. And so we can go and we basically get a token and then we send that token back and make an API call and say, hey, who am I? Tell me everything we need to know about who this user is. And it'll tell you who you are. We don't use user info in Azure AD or B2C. I mean, they're there for spec, but generally most of the info you need comes back in the tokens. We don't use user info, but user info is pretty common way to go get user data.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, some other
real quick. Did you know that there's an aka.ms link? So Bolt put it in the chat. I'm showing it for the folks live because I know you only have one screen, so you can't see it. But there is an aka.ms link. So thanks, Bolt.
Oh, for the IEF setup tool?
It is, yeah. So I'm sharing it right now, which you don't have to go to Google or Bing and search for it, right?
Nice. So. That's awesome. Good. So there's really not much here. Now we do need a client ID, which means we have to go over to Discord and register with them, register an application with them. And we do get a client secret. So we have to put our client secret into one of the B2C containers, one of the key containers, which the key containers are the ones that you see here. under policy keys. And there's a Discord client ID and client secret container. Of course, we just stuff the client ID in there, so whatever. But the client secret container is where our Discord secret is.
That's cool.
And then we do a little bit of claims transformation. Nothing too crazy. So we're saying that this is a social sign out or social sign in, which is something we use for B2C. We're saying that the user's been authenticated by Discord. That's the only two claims we're actually mapping. We are mapping the ID out of the token from Discord into the issuer user ID, which is a B2C claim for the rest of these things, so that we all sort of centralize on the same claim set. And we're copying email. We're getting the email from the token as well. And then we go do the normal social stuff, create a random user, create their alternative security ID, which is essentially their UPN that we're going to go look them up by. And then we sign them in. So the last thing we'd have to do, we've got our user journeys. In our user journey, we're going to have this Discord exchange, right? So we're going to add this new exchange. This is one of our steps. And by adding the exchange and then pointing to OAuth 2 being Discord-OAuth 2 being the name of this technical profile for this claims provider, by pointing this here, now we're saying, hey, go get some claims from this exchange. And because it's an OAuth 2 exchange, B2C knows OAuth 2 exchanges mean we got to go through an OAuth thing. Go through a flow to go get user data. We've also got a local account sign up. I was working on taking this out, but whatever. And then we just go through a normal sign in. So we're going to exchange some claims. We're going to look at some things like, should we use read the user if they already exist? If they don't exist, we're going to go create them. We're going to capture some extra info from the user, like anything extra we want to know, like their first name, last name, whatever. We're going to go read them out of the directory if they have an object ID after sign in. And then lastly, we'll get down here to the bottom and we'll send those claims out. So we go send the JWT, write the JWT, send it out, and it goes over to the app. So with that in mind, I'm going to go over to the app, which is hip or skip.azurewebsites.net. I'll do this in a private window, I guess. You can all see what it looks like, right? So you ready? So, okay, let's go ahead and put one thing to bed, right? I'm in my late 30s. Everybody on my team is within 10 years of that, okay? Hip, I think, was a term used like 20 or 30 years ago to decide, like when things were
It means
really
good.
hip.
It means good.
Right.
It means good.
So we're intended to use hip ironically, in the sense that clearly we are tragically unhip, at least me. I won't speak for the others, but so the fact that it's hip or if it's, I mean, whatever. Anyway, so let's go sign in, right? So now we're over here at our B2C.
So we should tell people that they should also sign in, right? Isn't that what?
Yeah,
our hope is?
all of you need to go sign in too. Yeah, all of you need to go sign in too.
Don't sign in with your email though. Sign in with Discord. Oh yeah, I was gonna say I'm showing the link right now.
Sign in with your Discord. If you don't have Discord, you should go join our Discord, which we also have a link for you to do. Once you sign up with Discord, you should definitely join the Discord that we have, which is a bunch of people talking about identity stuff. Because why wouldn't you want to join that?
Right.
And then you can come sign in, and then we can start to vote on things. So I'm going to sign in with my social account, which is Discord. It's going to take me over to Discord. And now Discord's like, hey, you got to go sign in, right? So, oh no, I'm not in the right browser that has my stored credentials. So let me
proof we're doing it live.
Do I have the Discord app on my phone? Yeah, but I'm not signed in there either. But my phone should know who I am. Does it work? Maybe Bueller. Okay, hang on. Let me get I got to get my two-factor code here. Let's see, Discord. We get signed.
And I'm gonna say I'm gonna log in too. Because all right. Why not? I should vote too, probably, friends. Right?
Find your friends beta update. Discord would like to access your contacts. I'm feeling like that's a strong no. All right, so I'm here. So, there are lots of deleted users. That's kind of strange. Okay, so I'm in my Discord app, right, on my phone. It says I can scan a QR code. So let's scan this QR code. Bam, and it says, are you trying to log in on the computer? And I'm like, yeah, log me in. And now we get to a consent screen. So like, if you're familiar with Azure AD, we've got a consent screen in Azure AD, and it says, hey, do you want this app to be able to do this or do that? Discord, pretty similarly, has the same thing. So all we're asking for is access to your username, avatar, and banner, which is your basic profile information, and your email address. Now, email is optional. We could have not included email address, but we wanted to just for the sake of keeping the information that's in the information that's in B2C, we can easier to look at. Now, we won't email you or anything like that. Like we're going to delete this directory when this is over. So you're giving us information that we're not going to do anything with. But and then they always add these at the bottom, like solve a mystery with Scooby and the gang, and it's like okay, like maybe if I was like 14, I would think that's kind of funny. The problem is that, in my opinion, and remember, I'm old and grumpy and don't really like fun. My problem is this teaches people that like it's saying this is going to allow the developer to do these things. Well, these first two are pretty normal. The last one it's like, okay, Scooby-Doo is fake, but I mean, who under 30 knows what Scooby-Doo is anyway? But so it's like there could be something else there though that maybe is completely unclear if it's a joke or not, and like you don't know if you're actually doing it. So I kind of feel like an OAuth consent screen is kind of like serious business. Like let's just leave it serious and do the fun stuff afterward. Like maybe after you click authorize, it says cool, like we're going to be able to do these things, but not go solve a mystery with Scooby and the gang. Like maybe we should do it separately, but like for the first part, like let's just maybe act like adults, marginal, like just for a moment. So anyway, I'm going to hit authorize on this and say, yeah, this can do it. And then now I'm here. Now I've already signed up, so I've already gone through my, the first initial registration, but you'll see my name, my display name that I've given is here. And now we have a place to vote on things that are good or bad.
So what should be the first question? That should be the question. Like, should we say that JP should write more B2C apps? Is that a hip or skip? Like, what do you? Maybe we should ask the folks in the chat. Folks in the chat, what would be a good question? Is it hip or is it skip?
I don't know how to change the question. How do I change the question?
I can change the question.
Oh, only you can change the question.
I talked to Chris. Do you want me to send you? I can send you the URL.
No.
We just can't share it because then somebody's gonna bork it for us.
I don't. No. I don't need to be able to do it. So no. I mean, okay. So the first question should be. Let's see. What would be a good first question to vote on? What's something that's
should JP get a new house?
Germane and non. Let's find something that's not controversial. How about okay, no, we're not going to go down there. How about the quintessential developer question, right?
Okay.
That obviously tabs are preferable to spaces. So let's start tabs, there.
How do you want me to word it? Are tabs?
Well, I wouldn't say are. Just pick one side and say that's the side, and then that way it'll be a hip or a skip.
Are tabs great? Question mark. Just how about that? You go with that?
Are tabs preferable to spaces? Well, it's got to have the spaces debate in there too. Which I'm kind of curious as to the people who get really upset about tabs and spaces because, like, I mean, I guess unless you're writing with like
we already have one skip. See? How are you going to vote, JP?
I don't know because my IDE does it. Like I don't like hit certain. I just what I do. I normally hit enter and then I usually press the tab button, but I don't think a tab is actually what's created. I don't know actually what's created if it's a tab, if it's an actual like whack T, or if it's a space. I actually don't know what it is because it feels like minutia. But some people get very upset about it, and I guess it breaks a lot of accessibility stuff. And so I actually don't know which one. I don't really care. I just want my code to not look. I want my code to be readable in the thing. So
how are you gonna vote then? Because you're gonna vote live, right?
Well, I don't want to be a. Oh no! So now we need a tiebreaker. Oh! See, somebody's very passionate now. So it's okay. That's okay though. So somebody really likes tabs, and that's totally okay. Like so. I'm gonna join Teams. I'm gonna join Team Spaces just because they need a little bit of help. So again, you can also vote more than once because if you're really excited about something, maybe you want to click it more than once, right? Like, so okay, so that one I think it's pretty clear. One person is super excited about tabs, and that's cool. But
All right,
all right, oh, it's continuing. So I think that's great. Like, whoever that person is, like, I'm glad you get usage out of your tab key. That's awesome.
Okay.
Let's see.
So
What's
what should
another?
be
What's
another good
one?
another good question? Is identity easy for a developer?
No, I don't know. I think we already know that one, and we don't want to break this thing. We don't want to DDoS our own site. What's another question we could ask? I'm like drawing a blank. 69 people, 69 tabs. Nice. Let's see. We need another controversial question. Who's got a controversial question that we can put into the chat?
Is
Something you want to
XML
ask all
fun?
your friends
Yeah.
about?
Oh yeah. No, we should. We should have the audience put something in.
Yeah, we need to find a meaningful question. Because is XML
Should we?
fun? Well, the answer to that's obviously no. So let's see. What's something that people would actually be divided on? Oh, okay. All right. Here's another one. Now we're gonna have to phrase
Okay.
this one differently because it's yes or no. Let's see. Our a GUI is preferable to CLI.
All right, here we go.
Because I actually heard people talking about this yesterday on Twitter. They were complaining about it. So no votes casted. Okay. 2 for GUIs. Cool. All right. 1 for CLI. 2 for CLI. 3. Okay. Let's see how excited people get about CLI. I'm a little curious myself. What we haven't seen is the explosion of excitement that we saw for tabs, which is probably good because it reminds me of somebody once said they got a survey from Windows and it said, do you tell your friends about Windows 10? And it's like
No,
the person responded and said, I need you to understand that normal people don't talk to their friends about operating systems.
it's true. It's true.
It's
Yes, I
very
saw that.
true.
It's very true.
So I mean, I kind of get it, right? Like, okay, so people like GUIs, which is great. Well, I mean, personally, I like GUIs too. Although I've seen this thing that's really annoyed me the last 2 days, which is Azure Portal's like, I'm trying to do a thing, and it's like, oh, you need to have a like I'm trying
Oh,
like
I saw
for
your tweet.
starters.
Yeah, I saw your
For
tweet about
starters,
the Azure Bastion subnet.
yeah. So I'm trying to deploy. Here's the very simple thing that I need. I need to build. I need to just literally build a container, like package a container. That's all I need to do. So I stood up a Linux VM just to have a place to go do this in one place, and I used it for an afternoon. Everything was great. Well, then corporate policy got applied, and pretty much every port under the sun got shut off. Right.
Yeah,
So I was like, well, this is dumb.
that's how it goes.
So I thought, well, I guess I can go do. Maybe I'll go do a Bastion host. Now, bear in mind, this is the spot instance VM that costs like $7 or something for the whole month. It's like a 4-core, 16 gig of memory machine, but it's got like an AMD processor in it or something. Like, who uses that? And so there are
Clearly
tons of them
you.
available as spot instances. Well, it's
Okay.
because it's cheap, right? I have
Yeah.
no allegiance when it's cheap. And so the spot instance price was like 90% off. So I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go do this. So this is a $7 VM, $7 a month. And now the only way I can connect to it is through a $220 a month Bastion host. And I was like, well, this is dumb. There's got to be a better way. So I went and did a bunch of stuff. But when I was going to go to deploy the Bastion host, the thing I noticed was it's like, oh, no, you need a subnet.
I
that's
know.
called Azure Bastion Subnet, and it's like a
Yep.
WAC 28 or something. And it's like,
26, I think.
okay, well,
That's
then
weird.
just go do that. Like, okay, thanks for the notification.
You
Go
know,
do it. Don't make me back out and go to my. I have to back out, go
yeah,
to the
to go
VNet,
create the subnet.
change
Yep.
it. I mean, what a
Yep. They should
pain.
they should
It's
give you the option to add to pick the VNet and add the subnet as you're building it, right? That would
thank
actually make more
you.
sense than having to back out of what you're doing, go add the subnet, go back. I don't know. Yeah, that just goes to show you there's a lot of different teams that build things in Azure and it's not as cohesive as it probably could be. So,
And then today I was
uh-oh.
going to go hook up an app service to my Azure Container Registry, right?
Okay.
So today I went to go do that, and it's like, oh, you need to enable blah blah blah. It's like kindly enable the admin account. Like kindly, like what is, are you phishing me right now? Like what is this? So again, go toggle the admin thing for me, or give me a
Yeah.
link that opens it into a new window, or
Yeah.
we need to enable this. Are you okay with this? Yes or no? Like now I got to back out from what I was doing. I've already picked the region. I've already picked the resource group. I've already picked the Linux, and it's a Docker container, and it's this and it's that, and I've already picked the size and all this stuff. And now I got to trash all that to go flip a bit somewhere that this thing could flip on its own. It's very anti-user UX, and I don't like that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I like GUIs too. I use CLIs for certain things. So anyway, I ended up using Tailscale. I don't know if any of you are using Tailscale. This is
It's
awesome.
awesome. It's
I
awesome.
love it.
So the hard thing for me was and I think it's because I skim a lot. I don't know if you have the same problem. There are times like I'll miss something. I didn't realize that you had a piece of software on your machine, and then you had to have a corresponding VM in Azure, right? So because I was ripping and running and doing too much, I missed that little bit. So just FYI, you need a VM in Azure. Could be just a straight Linux VM. It doesn't have to be a Windows VM. And then you need to have it installed on your whatever machine you're using to access it. But it's awesome. It is literally a game changer. And I think that's how a lot of Microsofties access their VMs without like a site-to-site VM, or sorry, a site-to-site VPN, not a VM.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. And then the other thing I found that was neat is I put it on a Raspberry Pi at my house, and then you can treat it as a gateway. And so the gateway now lets you gateway over to any other machine within that network, which is kind of
Oh,
neat.
so that you have the
Yeah.
Tailscale gateway installed there, is what you're saying.
Well, it's the same. I mean, it's the same client. So I've got the Tailscale. I've got Tailscale on this machine because, of course, this Tailscale comes only through the App Store on Mac, right?
Yeah.
So we got it on here, right? Oh no! Please don't connect because I don't know. Don't connect. Please don't connect because if it connects, I don't know what's going to happen to my stream. Am I still
Yeah,
there?
but yeah, you log in and you just add,
Yeah.
I think it's just the public IPs, right? It's been a bit since I played it with it, but I think it's just the public IPs of wherever you're trying to access the
Oh, you don't even have to do
device.
all that. So like, you don't even have to do that, which is what makes it so cool, right? Is like, let me get my thing up here. Oh, look at that Azure portal. Must be my
Uh-oh,
session
your
expired.
session expired.
So you go here, right? And you log in. I'm gonna log in right quick. So look, like all the machines that I've hooked up, including my phone, like my desktop at home, my laptop that I'm on right now. But then, like, this is my machine in Azure, and this is my machine at the house. So this little Raspberry
Wow.
Pi is publishing. It's publishing this subnet. So anything that's connected here, connected to the Tailscale network, can now hop over into other stuff in the house, which I think is fantastic.
That's
We're going to be
actually
on
really
vacation
cool.
this summer.
I feel like that's something I've got to look into because I had read something about it, but then you know how it goes. I feel like we
Yeah.
all have a little bit of the ADHD. We're like, "Ooh, shiny new. What is this?" And then you get stuck down a rabbit hole, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I meant to go back to it." I remember reading about it. I just didn't set it up.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty cool. I like it a lot. Like, and they've got this magic DNS too, which apparently will just assign names to all your devices, which is kind of neat. But anyway, the fact is, like, this is how I can get to this box, and I don't have to worry about any of the silliness of NSGs or Bastion hosts or any of that sort of stuff. And this is free, so it's like, this is what happens when people come around with their like super draconian, no, you can't do that sort of stuff. When people come around and do that kind of thing, people find like life finds a way, and
Yeah.
nobody finds ways around security policies like people who need to get work done. I'm just saying.
Yeah. It's true.
Anyway, so anyway, do we have any? Is there another hot take we want to do before we go? Because it's getting close.
Yeah,
to
we
time
should.
to go, I think.
We should probably do maybe do one more. Let's see. So people like spot instances. That's not really a hot
Ooh,
take
spot
though.
instance is a good one. Oh yeah,
What,
yeah. I
what,
mean
what would
that's
be, what would be what
universally
would be the
great,
question? Yeah, I was gonna say yeah, like that. There's no real reason why you would hate it. I think.
right? Let's see. Do we have? Has anybody suggested anything good in the chat
No,
of
and
a
I'm shocked.
controversial hot take?
Should we call on Bolt? If he's still around, he's probably not. He's probably
We
doing
need
real work.
somebody hit us with a really controversial take.
Hot take. Yeah. Nothing.
The hottest of takes. Hit us with something hot. I like spot instances too. Ooh, okay, Bolt's got a good one.
He's here. He was hacking the website.
I mean, I would say the next question should be: should Bolt continue hacking the website? But the obvious answer there is yes as well. So it's hard to say. Oh, Bolt's making an auto clicker. That's awesome. I love it. Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to think of a question that I've asked other people before, where people got upset, but not so upset that they quit talking to me.
Oh, do you want
Oh,
something
you know what
about
we could do? Oh,
something about
I got
Kubernetes?
it. Okay. Oh, no, we got two. So, okay, so first we got to do BSD, guys, which is system control versus initd, and Rust in the kernel. Those are both really good. Okay, so here's one. Now, so I left, right? I went to go work for this other company. And on day one, the thing that they had all the new people do was they had to get into a Slack meeting with everybody and tell a hot take. Now, most of the hot takes were fairly germane. They weren't hot. They were at
Oh,
most
right.
lukewarm.
I remember you
right?
saying this to me.
They were not hot or spicy in the least, except this one lady comes in at the end. And she says, "All right, Shannon, I'm gonna text you this because I just want your reaction as you're typing it in, and I want to see what everybody else does. So I'm gonna text you, okay?
Okay, I got my phone out.
Let's see. Okay, you got it? All right. And try not to react until you've typed it in because it is one of the worst takes I've ever seen in my life.
Try not to laugh
See?
as you type it in. You can't.
I know. It's just but I want to see what people think. Because once it's up, I'll tell you what was even more surprising than the immediate revulsion you're going to feel when you see this. So awful. Okay.
Yeah, people are like, no,
That's
I'm
good.
going to say no. Actually, I'll say no. I'll say no a lot here. Here we go. No, no, no,
Yeah, okay.
no.
So the worst part about this is there were people who actually agreed with her and said, "Oh yeah."
What?
Can you imagine dipping an Oreo in water? I mean, an Oreo is Oreos are I prefer Oreos. I like them.
Like the numbers climbing on Skip.
Oh yeah. I can't.
It's
Okay,
pretty
good.
awful.
I mean, at least like clearly we know we have a reasonable audience.
Yeah.
Like there's something so viscerally like it just makes my insides hurt.
Yeah.
To even think about eating a soggy, water-laden Oreo. It feels criminal almost. Like the thing is, I don't even like them when they've been in milk too long.
This is funny. I got to take a screenshot of this just because of the fact that
I mean, I'm just glad that Bolt's auto clicker is getting because this is canon now. So be sure to join us next week when we'll be discussing how to dip Oreos into water for maximum effect. So that it's probably good. This is a good point, BSD guy. I feel like now the company I went to go work for, they were all like it was like public safety stuff. So there were a bunch of like detectives and like police people who like or former police and detectives who worked there. So maybe that's what it was, right? Like maybe they were trying to weed us out. They're trying to find the weak ones, but I don't know, man. I feel like, I mean, this as a parent, this is going to replace, well, if little Johnny jumped off a bridge, would you too? No. If little Johnny dipped his Oreos in water, would you too? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's going to be much, and I'll be honest, if my kid ever came home and said somebody did that, I probably wouldn't let him go to that person's house anymore.
I feel like that person
disturbing.
doesn't believe in fun. Doesn't
But
believe in fun.
I don't know. There's a certain lunacy that I think it requires that. And I'm really, really excited that we've hit 250 yeses or 250 very strong no's on this. That makes me feel much better. 256. It's a nice round number. So,
Yeah, that's good.
there was, yeah. So, I mean, that's probably a great one. Probably a great one for us to wrap up on. Bolt thinks I should get rid of my Mac, I'm assuming.
I saw that. I was actually going to say, if we don't have, you couldn't think of a hot take, then we would use that hot take, because it is funny.
You can use
Is this
that one.
when
I have
we,
to say, it's a fantastic .NET machine.
is this when we tell them that you also have an iPhone? Because all of a sudden his text messages went from, what is it, the RCS flavor on an Android to it wasn't there anymore. So I never knew if JP got my texts, and I'm like, what's going on? And then I
Yeah.
run into him at our offsite, on site for some people that don't, that live in the Seattle area. He has an iPhone. I'm like, who is this guy? He
And
left
look, it's like
Microsoft.
you can put your wallet on the back. It's a
You can do that
magnet.
with an Android too.
It's like magnets. How do they work? Right? Wasn't that like the ICP? Like, it's so amazing. So
Oh, I love it.
I'll be honest. It's taken me a little while to adjust to Mac OS full time because I bought a studio at home too. But let me tell you, that thing is fast, like stupidly fast. Like, yeah, see, BSC. So right now I'm coming to
I
you
think that's
on a
what you have,
MacBook
right?
Pro M1.
Yeah.
I've got a MacBook Pro M1, the 14-inch one. It's the one they sell in the store, so it's like 16 gigs of memory and an M1 Pro, like whatever the lower M1 Pro, like not the big M1 you get in the big MacBook Pro, but like the Pro one.
Okay.
And the battery will last all day. I can compile Orchard Core, which for any of the .NET folks, okay, my old machine was a 10th gen i7, 64 gigs of memory with a bunch of NVMe drives, right? Fast machine. The old machine I used to write a bunch of code on, right? It would compile Orchard Core in 30, 35 seconds. This laptop will do it in 12, okay?
What?
Orchard Core will compile it in 12 seconds on .NET 6. Now, .NET 7 even has more ARM64 optimizations. And then on my machine at home, which is the Mac Studio, like the big, tall M1, it'll do it in like 10 seconds. It's absolutely
Wow.
amazing. And the thing is, it never bogs down. I'll have 1,000 tabs open and everything else, and it just never lags. I love it. So while OS X has its nuances, we'll say, like this keyboard stuff, these keyboard shortcuts, this is awful. That part I do hate. The muscle
because
memory starting
I
to
still have,
set in.
yeah, I still have a MacBook, and I don't use it as often as I used to when I was doing more Kubernetes. Just be quiet, JP. Just pretend like I didn't say that. And the keyboard shortcuts were hard to get used to.
Mm-hmm. We've been doing all this. I've been at the office for 3 hours, 3.5 hours. I have not plugged in, and I'm at 87% battery.
Wow.
That's streaming and screen, all this sort of stuff. No sweat. That's awesome.
Writing B2C code, right?
Writing XML I mean, my brain gets warm when I have to write XML, So I have to say, like, it's worth taking a look at. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm not disagreeing, but it was one of those things where all of a sudden you were in the Apple ecosystem, and I was a little like, is JP okay? Do we need to do an intervention? Like, is everything good?
Well, I used to do Apple, like mostly Apple stuff. And like I had an iPhone and I had a MacBook that I would use occasionally. And like when I did consulting, I had a MacBook I used a lot. But Windows is pretty good. I use Windows quite a bit. And so it's kind of like, like I was always a Windows sort of thing and did .NET and liked identity and stuff. So Windows was a good place to be. And I think what I've realized too, what I've learned is it's super, super great how newer identity stuff, like now that everybody's getting away from NTLM and Kerberos and everything else
Yeah.
on-prem, how much easier it is to use a Mac for daily work, and still have the right access to the right stuff at the right time.
That is true. I will definitely echo those sentiments because of the fact that I was able to do what I needed to do, access the things at work that I needed to access on my own MacBook. I did take it off of our domain just because I ran into some weird stuff with Sophos at one point, and I was just like, look, like this is literally my own machine. I'll just take it off the Microsoft domain and get it back to where I need it. But it's kind of just collecting. I need to probably go and spend some time with it myself, figure out what I want to do with it. So
some chatter about Copilot. Copilot now, what are they saying? $100 a year, $10 a month, which I think is probably worth every penny.
yeah.
Copilot is in VS Code, but I have not tried Visual Studio for Mac. My hope is that I never have to. I'm also on a plight to not install Rosetta. So if something doesn't have Apple Silicon compatibility, I either don't use it or I hack around it to make it work. So if anybody's interested in also dying on hills that don't matter and being very, very Don Quixote about the whole thing, let me know, because I've written some scripts that do things like install Teams, for example. Like there's no native Teams in one, but there is now. And so, but anyway, yeah. Copilot is awesome. I love it. And $100 for a year, I feel like is a bargain. Although people are already upset now. One guy said yesterday that if you use Copilot and Copilot writes code and it was trained on GPL code, that now the code that you've written should also be GPL. And I feel like that's probably a bit of a stretch, but whatever. I mean, it's an interesting thought experiment. So tab-driven development, I love it. So anyway, it turns out I'm late for a meeting, so I should probably go.
So hang on, we gotta raid real quick here. So let's see if what area do I have it? Oh, it's my private tab. Hang on. There we go. This is good practice for me because of the fact that I don't know. I just haven't done it as much, right? So we've got C# Fritz, we've got Code It Live, Developers Garage, or Microsoft Developer. C# Fritz is a lot of people on. Why don't we give him some folks? Give him some love.
Let's go see our good friend. Hey, thanks, Bolt, for the nice words. I'm excited to be back, Shannon. Thank you for having me and letting me take over your show today.
Of course. So with that, so let's flip. I just started the raid. So everybody's heading over there now. I'll flip here. So until next time.